Members, if we could please take our seats, we're going to move to adjournments in memory before we do our special presentation today. So if members can take their seats, I would really appreciate it so we can do our adjournments in memory. The following members were granted prior permission to speak on adjournment in memory. Mr. Gomez, you are recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to honor the life, legacy, and memory of Mr. Frank Wada of Lincoln Heights, California, the Lincoln Heights community, the Los Angeles Police Department, and the Los Angeles Neighborhood Council system lost a lifelong advocate with the passing of Frank Wada on November 11, 2015. From the beginning, Frank was always involved in his community. His love for community activism began as a Lincoln High School Key Club president and associate student government president. Since graduating in 1973, Frank has been a constant presence in the Lincoln Heights civic community, involving himself with organizations such as the Kiwanis, the Lincoln Heights Chamber of Commerce, and helping with the creation of the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council in my assembly district. We also should remember Frank's longtime advocacy for the Los Angeles Police Department. He dedicated countless volunteer hours at neighborhood events and as a member of the LAPD Hollenbeck Division Community Police Advisory Board. Frank valued the act of listening to others, and his uplifting presence, of course, will be missed in the Lincoln Heights community. My prayers and condolences go out to the Frank Wada family. May his memory and spirit live on within his family and community. I request that we adjourn in memory of Frank Wada.
Thank you. Mr. Gray, you're recognized for your adjournment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise today to adjourn in the memory of Dave Henderson. Dave Henderson, nicknamed Hendu, was born in Merced and raised in Dos Palos, where he went to high school. One of the most accomplished athletes in Dos Palos history, Mr. Henderson played Major League Baseball for the Seattle Mariners, the Boston Red Sox, the San Francisco Giants, the Oakland Athletics, and the Kansas City Royals during his exceptional 14-year career. Hendu was an all-star in 1991 and played outfield for the 1989 world champion Oakland Athletics. He seemed to be at his best when the lights were the brightest. His biggest moments and performances often came in the playoffs and in the World Series. In fact, he had a .298 batting average in 36 postseason games, driving in 20 runs and 7 homers. Henderson is best remembered for the 2-out, 2-strike home run he hit in the top of the 9th inning in Game 5 of the 1986 ALCS, which propelled the Boston Red Sox to the World Series. I personally recall another big moment in his career when he was playing against my favorite team, the Giants, in the 1989 World Series. Henderson belted a 2-run home run in Game 3, which led the A's to a 4-game sweep and a world championship. For as good a player as Dave Henderson was, he was a better person. His teammates described him as one of the nicest, most compassionate people you'd ever want to meet. He was a tremendous athlete, an incredible baseball player, but he was 100 times more than that as a person because he was so giving and he cared about everybody. After his career, charity and giving back to the community became a big part of his life. He was founder of Rick's Toys for Kids, which has raised $2.5 million and purchased more than 100,000 toys for kids during the holidays. Henderson was also active in efforts to raise awareness for Angelman syndrome, a genetic disorder that affects his son Chase. I'm honored to recognize Dave Hendu Henderson. He is survived by his wife Nancy and 2 sons, Chase and Trent, and I ask that we adjourn in his memory today.
Thank you. Mr. Medina, you're recognized for your adjournment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to adjourn in the memory of my close friend, Jose Miramontes. Jose was born and raised in Azusa Pacific, Azusa, California, and graduated from Cal State Los Angeles with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps and was honorably discharged in 1962. Soon after leaving the Marine Corps, he joined the ranks of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department as a reserve deputy sheriff and worked numerous assignments, including patrol, investigation, and narcotics. In 1993, Jose went on to help start the East Los Angeles chapter of the National Latino Peace Officers Association and became its first chapter president. In 2000, Jose was elected president of the National Latino Peace Officers Association, where he served in that capacity until 2004. During his term as national president, he was invited to the White House several times, where he met with President Bush and other dignitaries. In addition to his strong leadership, Jose was a dedicated mentor to the Latino community. He fostered the careers of many and was responsible for several Latino appointments to the judicial branch. I ask that we adjourn in memory of my good friend, Jose Miramontes.
Thank you, Mr. Ting. You are recognized for your adjournment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to adjourn in the memory of Doug Shorenstein. Mr. Shorenstein passed away on November 24th, 2015, at the age of 19. As a lifelong resident and native San Franciscan, Mr. Shorenstein was a distinguished businessman in real estate as well as a civically engaged philanthropist. After receiving a Bachelor of Arts from UC Berkeley, go Bears, and a JD, go Bears, from UC Hastings, Mr. Shorenstein joined his father, Walter Shorenstein, at the family business, Shorenstein Properties, LLC. In 1995, Mr. Shorenstein was appointed chair and CEO of Shorenstein Properties and grew it from the most influential real estate owner in San Francisco into a national real estate company. This led to his induction in the Bay Area Business Hall of Fame in 2011. He was also a civic leader, being on the board of the Environmental Defense Fund, past chair of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, and a member of the UCSF Medical Center Executive Council. As a civic leader, he also led the effort to save the San Francisco Giants and keep them in San Francisco. He was also a major contributor to the UCSF Mission Bay Hospital campaign and a longtime supporter of the Helen Diller Family Comprehensive Cancer Center. Mr. Shorenstein is survived by his wife, Lydia, his 3 children, Brandon, Sandra, and Daniel, and his sister, Carol Shorenstein Hayes, and many other family and friends.
Mr. Chu, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also join my San Francisco colleague in rising to adjourn in the memory of Doug Shorenstein, who left a tremendous mark on our city and on California. As Mr. Ting just recounted, he was the son of legendary Walter Shorenstein, but was the second-generation leader of one of California's most prominent business families. The Shorenstein Company invested not only in 24 real estate markets across the country, but their work led to the economic revitalization of some of the most blighted neighborhoods in San Francisco, including the Tenderloin and South of Market areas, as well as historic buildings throughout our city. While Doug's legacy includes his real estate genius, we will also remember him as a generous and kind-hearted man who cared deeply for his community, and many of us considered him a friend. He was a real regular guy with a warm and caring presence that will be deeply missed. And with that, we provide our deepest condolences to his family and ask that we adjourn in memory of Doug Shorenstein.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. You are recognized for your adjournment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning. Today I'm adjourning in memory of my constituent, Dr. George Stewart. At the age of 93, Dr. Stewart passed away on December 31st with his wife of 67 years. Dr. Stewart was a loving husband, father, grandfather, and friend. Stewart was one of Sacramento's first African-American dentists, opening his dental initial practice in Sacramento's Oak Park neighborhood. Stewart, a dedicated community member, also served for 16 years on the Los Rios Community College District School Board, championing equal rights for students. Before graduating from dental school in 1954, Mr. Stewart served our country with honor and distinction in a segregated unit during World War II. He's survived by his wife of 67 years, his daughter Amelia, and his son John. My heartfelt prayers go out to Dr. Stewart's family and friends. He will be deeply missed. Thank you for the opportunity to adjourn in his memory today.
Thank you. Members, please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. All requests to adjourn in memory will be deemed read and printed in the journal. We are going to return to motions and resolutions, and nominations are now open for the office of Speaker of the California State Assembly. Mr. Bonta, you are recognized for your nomination.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Today, I am honored to place into nomination for Speaker of the California State Assembly the name of my friend and our colleague, Assemblymember Anthony Rendon. Colleagues, the California State Assembly is entering a new chapter in our history. A chapter fueled by the hope and passion for a better collective future for all Californians, and a chapter built on unity. Mr. Rendon was selected with the support of a united Democratic caucus, a caucus whose membership reflects the beautiful diversity of our state. A teacher, a police officer, and a scientist, a small business owner, a labor leader, a social worker, and an EMT, a coal miner's daughter, sons and daughters of immigrants, as well as sons and daughters of legislators, and yes, even an attorney. And we have come together today in strong, shared support of our next leader. Mr. Rendon is the right leader at this critical time. He is dedicated to improving the lives of all Californians, especially those in deep poverty and those experiencing environmental injustice. He knows in his heart that every single child in California deserves a chance to succeed and meet her full potential by getting a fair start in life with high-quality early childhood education. His values, depth of experience, and collaborative, pragmatic leadership style are exactly what our House and our state need. That collaborative approach has been on full display. In his first term, Mr. Rendon led an unprecedented coalition of stakeholders in a bipartisan effort to create a $7.5 billion state water bond that will benefit all of California. And Mr. Rendon is also a leader who understands that the success of this House largely depends on fostering understanding and building relationships with one another. Many of you have experienced this firsthand, and so have I. As I may have mentioned once or twice on this floor, I spent my early childhood in La Paz, the headquarters for the United Farm Workers of America, living with my family in a trailer just a stone's throw away from the home of Cesar Chavez. Upon learning about this, Mr. Rendon went out of his way to arrange for my family to return to La Paz. I hadn't been there since I was a young boy, and my children had never visited. So the trip that he arranged for me and my family and my ninong, Jose Gomez, who had served as the executive assistant for Cesar Chavez, was incredibly thoughtful and deeply meaningful. It turned out to be an extraordinary gift, as that would be the last time I was able to see my ninong Jose before he passed. In that act, and many others, Mr. Rendon demonstrated his commitment to truly know and genuinely care about his colleagues and their values. Mr. Rendon, I have a gift for you to mark this momentous occasion. I believe it exemplifies the critical juncture at which we stand today and the enormous opportunity we have to accomplish so much as we embark on this journey together. Madam Speaker, permission to use a prop?
Without objection.
This is an image from a private collection never before made public. It was taken at the start of the Delano Grape Strike of 1965. That movement that launched a successful 5-year stand for justice, which lies at the heart of California's farm labor movement. This image shows Larry Itliong, leader of the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee, and Cesar Chavez, who led the National Farm Workers Association, walking side by side. These leaders brought their respective communities together to form a stronger, more diverse whole. These leaders knew that they'd move forward together or would not move forward at all, that there was no us and them, that there was only us. These leaders made history. Colleagues, just like these leaders, with Mr. Rendon's leadership, we have a chance to improve the lives of millions of Californians. With Mr. Rendon's leadership, we have the chance to create new opportunity and prosperity. With Mr. Rendon's leadership, we have the chance to make history. Mr. Rendon, I'm excited for your leadership, the future of our House, and the journey we will take together. Colleagues, please join me in supporting Mr. Rendon as the next Speaker of the California State Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Bonta. Mr. Mays, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise as the Assembly Republican leader and a proud conservative. And I rise to nominate Anthony Rendon for Speaker of the Assembly because today we are Californians first. Doing so is contrary to a practice that goes back decades, and I'm sure I'll take some heat for doing so. But it's time for a change. Today isn't about partisan politics. It's about electing a speaker and demonstrating that we can govern as adults. Make no mistake, our policy differences are sharp and will continue to play out on this floor, and we will have disagreements and vigorous debates highlighting them. But those are fights for a different day. Today is a day to act as a unified body, to be Californians first. When Assemblyman Rendon asked me if I would consider nominating him, I asked him to give me a day to think about it. He was respectful. He said he'd understand if doing so would cause me political problems. My immediate reaction was to say yes, but I wanted some time to think about why I felt this way. After reflection, it comes down to this. We are about to begin a new chapter in the history of the Assembly. Why would we want to make the first action in this new era an empty partisan exercise? Doing so would not serve the House or the state well. It would just be more of the same. I say, it's time to do things differently. I challenge the majority party to join me by setting an aspirational and bipartisan tone for how we should run this House. Members, today, let's agree to agree. Let's also agree that when we disagree, we will do so with respect. And let's agree that all voices in this chamber, and by extension, the millions of Californians we represent, will be heard and respected. This is what the public craves and deserves. It's time to start anew. Assemblyman Rendon is committed to making this House run in such a manner, and I commit to helping him do it and holding him to it. It is in this spirit and with this hope that I rise to nominate Anthony Rendon to be the 70th Speaker of the California Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Mays, for seconding the motion. Ms. Burke, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I also second the nomination of our colleague, Assemblyman Anthony Rendon, as Speaker of the Assembly. Today is a day of solidarity. Today we're coming together to select our next leader, the person we will trust to guide our chamber through all of the challenges that lie before us. It's not a decision that any of us take lightly. Like many of you, I represent a very diverse district. It's racially diverse, it's economically diverse, and it's one where many families, businesses, and neighborhoods are still struggling in spite of a multi-billion-dollar surplus in our state budget. When I think of who I want at the helm to help my constituents, I think of someone who will work on behalf of all of us and all of our districts. Today, I am happy to support Assemblymember Anthony Rendon. Assemblymember Rendon represents what is best in our great state. At his core, he embodies the California dream that lives in all of us, the passion for equality, opportunity, and justice for all. In fact, it's the philosopher in him that perpetually asks Plato's timeless question, what is justice, that guides all of his work. What is justice when it comes to fair wages? What is justice when it comes to our environment? He has spent his career to ensure that all Californians have access to justice when it comes to the essentials that so many of us take for granted: quality childcare, education, health care, and clean air. And he did all of that before he took his first oath of office. In just his first year in office, Assemblyman Rendon went against conventional wisdom and dove headfirst into one of the most challenging issues that has vexed our generation of leaders before him. He worked tirelessly on the water bond, holding 16 hearings in communities small and large across the state so that every voice could be heard. In the end, we have a bond that will ensure a more sustainable future for every community. That push for accountability and transparency is visible throughout all of his work here in Sacramento and at home. He's been a voice for the voiceless, fighting for clean drinking water in Maywood and access to green space and parks throughout the restoration of the Los Angeles River. Those local victories have echoed across our region. The work he did in Maywood has inspired other communities to push for reliable, clean water. His advocacy for open government has translated into tangible changes beyond the boundaries of the 63rd Assembly District. Through his commitment to collaboration, his willingness to listen, his boundless determination, and yes, his search for justice across every facet of policymaking, I know that all of the great things he's been able to do in our region is just the beginning. Assemblymember Rendon has a vision for California, and the work we do here in the Assembly, one of a brighter future for all. Again, I also second the nomination of Assemblyman Rendon for Speaker, and I respectfully request an aye vote.
Thank you. Ms. Campos, you are recognized.
Thank you. It is my great honor to second the nomination of our colleague, Anthony Rendon, as the next Speaker of the California State Assembly. As we prepare to officially bestow upon him the responsibility of leading this great institution, it is also important to recognize the magnitude of this moment, not only for this House, but equally for the very constituents each one of us has the privilege to serve. In Speaker Rendon, we move towards an era where the thoughtful conversation that is required when seeking to bring different points of views together will be the daily standard here on the floor and in the corridors of the Capitol. As California's politics begins to shift back towards the middle, I know that Speaker Rendon will bring us to the point where what matters is not whether the idea is sponsored by a Democrat or a Republican, but rather by the substance of the idea and how it will make our great state stronger. Having the privilege of being able to call Speaker Rendon a personal friend, I have also been privy to how he deliberates and what truly motivates him, both individually and as an elected official. This has also allowed me to personally witness his passion for serving as a public servant. To him, every issue he tackled isn't simply a political calculation. Instead, it's an opportunity to make California's dreams a reality for every single resident here in our great state. Assemblymember Rendon, it is an honor to call you a friend, and even a greater honor to serve with you on this assembly floor. And I look forward to working with you as you move your goals forward for our great state and our great nation, California. I second the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thurman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. It is my honor to stand today to second the nomination of Assemblymember Anthony Rendon to serve as the next Speaker of the California State Assembly. We all know this is a tough job, but I believe that he is up for the job given his lifetime of service as an executive director, serving environmental causes, and serving families and children around the issues of early childhood education. His experience here in this very body, championing the water bond that you've heard about today, championing environmental issues, he's demonstrated his grit and his ability to lead. Over the last several months, I've had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Rendon about his vision, about how this body should tackle the issues of the day, the issues of affordable housing, the issues of homelessness, expanding early childhood education, and even issues like addressing the needs of our residents who have developmental disabilities. As we've talked about each one of those issues, he's made it clear that what we do here, the policies that we make here, must touch the lives of the people who we serve back home in a positive and powerful way and make that impact every single day. I have always believed that the job of any legislative leader is simple. While there are many personalities, while there's a lot of diversity, while we don't always agree, I've always believed that the job of a legislative leader is to find one or two things that the organization can work on together, that we can work on together to support the people of California. I believe that as Speaker, Mr. Rendon will do just that. But I also believe that a Speaker is only as good as the people that he or she represents, the members, and that it is up to all of us today to commit to Mr. Rendon that as Speaker, we will support him, that we will follow his leadership, that we will follow his vision for the state of California. It has been my honor today to stand to second the nomination for Assemblymember Anthony Rendon to become the 70th Speaker of the California State Assembly, and I respectfully urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Now, without objection, the nominations for the office of Speaker are now closed. Mr. Holden, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the rules and precedent be suspended to allow Assemblymember Rendon to be elected to the office of Speaker, to be sworn in a regular floor session convened by the Speaker pursuant to the Assembly rules, or upon a vacancy, whichever occurs first, by a voice vote.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. This vote requires a second. Ms. Garcia, I recognize your second. Without objection, we will move to a voice vote. All in favor of electing Assemblymember Anthony Rendon as the 70th Speaker of the California State Assembly, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Members, Assemblymember, our colleague Anthony Rendon has been elected Speaker of the California State Assembly. He will be sworn in at a regular floor session convened by myself, the Speaker, pursuant to Assembly rules or upon a vacancy, whichever occurs first. And now, whenever he is ready, we will hear remarks from the Honorable Anthony Rendon, the Speaker-elect of the California State Assembly. Speaker-elect Rendon.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Madam Speaker and colleagues, when the voters extended term limits in 2012, they did so because they believed that they would help the legislature to be more thoughtful, more productive, and more deliberative. As a result, the era that lies before us is one that's filled with great potential for both the state and this institution. The role of the Speaker in an era when members can serve up to 12 years is to maximize that potential by helping members develop greater expertise, pursue longer-term policy strategies, and perform more vital oversight. In doing so, the Speaker enables all members with the tools and opportunities to better represent our constituents in the work we have before us. One of the best aspects of Speaker Atkins' leadership has been the manner in which she has empowered members and democratized the institution. This will also be my approach. Thank you, Speaker Atkins, for starting this important process and for your devotion to public service.
Thank you, Mr. Rendon. Continue.
Because of your leadership, thousands of struggling families will soon benefit from the state's Earned Income Tax Credit program. Because of your leadership, 5,000 more students will soon be able to enroll in the University of California. Because of your leadership, the goal of ensuring affordable housing for every Californian has advanced significantly. I also want to thank Mr. Bonta, Mr. Thurmond, Ms. Campos, and Ms. Burke for your kind words on behalf of my nomination, as well as for your friendship and for your commitment to our state. Thank you. Mr. Mays, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Congratulations on your appointment as Republican leader. Looking forward to a fruitful relationship with you and with the entire Republican caucus. Above all, though, I want to thank all of my colleagues for the confidence you have placed in me and this immense privilege to serve. Our work together begins right away. Last week, the governor released his initial proposal for the budget. This document is the embodiment of our values and the values of the people of California. I look forward to representing the will of the House throughout the budget process. Most of all, we have the work of creating a better California, a California where half the children in the world's 8th largest economy are not in poverty, but instead have infinite opportunities before them, including the kind of life-changing public education experience that I had. A California that engages residents in its democracy again, and a California with a safe environment, with clean air and clean water, and lets families, communities, and businesses thrive. Not only are these the issues that brought all of us to public office, but these are also the challenges that Californians have demanded that we address. Thank you again for the honor you have given me and for the trust you have placed in me.
Thank you, Mr. Rendon. Mr. Rendon, very quickly, I'm going to allow you the honor of not forgetting to recognize the most brilliant and lovely spouse who is beside you, because I support you as Speaker.
I want to introduce my wife, my partner, my hairstylist, and my general fashion consultant, Annie Lamb.
The state is most grateful to her for that. I am ordering the remarks of Speaker-elect Anthony Rendon to be printed in the Assembly Journal in their entirety. And now, very quickly, moving to finishing business and announcements. The session schedule is as follows: Tuesday, January 12th, check-in. Wednesday, January 13th, check-in. Thursday, January 14th, check-in. Friday, January 15th. Floor session at 9 a.m. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. Seeing and hearing no further business, I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Holden moves, Ms. Waldron seconds that this House stands adjourned until Friday, January 15th at 9 a.m. Quorum call is lifted.